What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Before we get into the topic, I just want to say there is a class going on behind me, so if you hear some banging of barbells, I apologize. So today I wanted to talk about how tracking calories and macros was actually really beneficial for me in working on my relationship with food. So the reason that I wanted to make this video is because, as you guys have noticed, I've made quite a few videos responding to different nutritionists and dietitians that are saying any of these ways of tracking can turn into an ED. Now, the reason I'm using that word instead of the actual word is because I think YouTube doesn't like me using the actual word, which I'll put right here. So I'm just going to be calling them EDs. Now, I do understand that these methods have the chance of turning into an ED, but just because there is a chance, that doesn't mean that everyone that does them is going to have that problem. You know, if you look at like a whole cake, if you were to eat the whole cake, you might feel a little bit sick, but having a piece of that cake is totally fine. So before we get into what I'm doing now and how I learned how to track and all that stuff, I want to, go way back to where, everything started, where, when I was younger, I grew up in a very poor family and we did not have very much money. And so I'm not saying any of this for sympathy, but I'm just trying to give you a little bit of backstory. So growing up, food wasn't, oh, what's the highest quality food I can get? It was literally like, okay, my mom would get, Hamburger Helper or ramen or like the cheapest stuff that we could find to feed the family. And so that's, when I looked at food growing up, it was like the cheapest thing possible was pretty much what I always ate. And my mom growing up, bless her heart, I love her, but she wasn't focused on what's the highest quality ingredients I can get for my children. It's like, how can I get enough food to feed all of these kids plus myself, and make it so we're not starving. So a lot of times, again, that was really, really cheap options that might not have been the healthiest. And a lot of times they were not, they were pretty calorically dense. And another thing that we did growing up was we never really ate food together. Food was more, it would be made and then you went in and got it at your own leisure, right? So like for dinner, she would make like a big pot of Hamburger Helper or spaghetti and she would just say, okay, go get your food. And so if you wanted more than maybe one bowl, something that I learned was I had to eat very fast. So I would eat really fast so I could get seconds and thirds. This is still something that I do today. I eat faster than most people that I know. So then on top of that, food became kind of like this special thing where like if we did something good or if my mom had a little bit of extra money, we would maybe go out to eat and get fast food, right? Because we really didn't get that much fast food when I was really, really young. And so we would get fast food, or something that I remember that we would do every single year was at the end of the school year, we would go to this place called Hometown Buffet. So for me, like food always was, like I always had this weird relationship with food, and like most of it was because I didn't understand food. Food for me was always, it was never very healthy, and it was always kind of like cheap food. Like that's how I lived my entire life. And then I've talked about, all the bad habits that I picked up as I was growing up was, drinking soda. I drank over a 2-liter soda pretty much every single day, especially towards when I was at my heaviest, just snacking on literally whole bags of chips and not even thinking anything of it, right? Like I had these really, really bad habits that I picked up that became so normal to me that I would never even think twice about drinking a double gulp, which is basically 2 liters of soda, and having a big bag of chips as just a snack, not even thinking, oh, this is a ton of calories. It was like, well, yeah, I was bored, so I went and walked to 7-Eleven and I picked that up. I promise there's a reason that I'm telling you guys all this stuff. So when I started losing weight, I did what I have called the common sense diet many times. And so what that was for me, because these habits were so bad and it was very obvious, like even though I had no knowledge about nutrition, like I knew, okay, I probably shouldn't be drinking soda. Like everyone knows soda is probably not the best thing for you, right? I shouldn't be eating bags of chips all the time, and I probably shouldn't be getting as much fast food. So that's what I did. I cut those things out, and that's what I called the common sense diet. This was all well and good, and I was on my way to losing weight by cutting those things out and making it a very simple thing. But then at some point, I got really focused on how many calories can I cut out. Now, this is where I understand where a lot of these dietitians or nutritionists come from, because I got very overly focused on how little can I eat. So I definitely struggled for a while with really, really restricting myself too much. At a point, I was eating, between 700 and 1,000 calories a day, and that's when I started developing BED, which again, I'll put what that means down there. And so when I was struggling with that, again, I I felt like I had this knowledge of food, but I really didn't understand what I was doing. So for me, it was, I just need to eat as little calories as I possibly can, because that's the way that I'll be able to lose weight. Now, I know hearing that, that's probably like, well, now you're just proving their point. You're saying exactly what they say. Again, like I said, I understand where they're coming from, but again, they make these blanket statements where anyone that tracks anything or anything like that is struggling with, an ED. And so the reason I'm saying this is because once I really started to notice that I was struggling with this, I was like, okay, what can I do to no longer struggle with this? Because it was really getting quite bad. And that's when I found tracking macros. And that's when I started working out and I realized I am eating too little calories. So for me, tracking helped me eat more calories and get to a point where I was no longer struggling with BED and I could move forward. And that's when my relationship with food started getting healthier as I started to track. And then on top of that, I think the most important thing that tracking helped me with, again, the reason I told that whole story in the beginning was because I had zero knowledge about food, about calories, about how many calories are in certain types of food. And so it really helped me realize, okay, there's a lot of calories in XYZ. Maybe I should avoid those if I'm trying to lose weight. Just like so much stuff that I learned through tracking by just doing it daily and seeing, oh, okay, so there's this many calories in this thing. There's this many calories in that thing. This has these kind of macros, this has these kind of macros. It really helped me understand food because growing up, I had zero knowledge and no one really taught me anything. So I really do believe that tracking for a season, I tracked for about 2 years, was unbelievably helpful for me. Now, I want to make it very clear, as you guys have seen in my videos, I don't track anymore. And I think that the goal for pretty much everyone should be the fact that you don't need to track your calories or your macros or anything like that. But I absolutely believe without a shadow of a doubt that tracking either calories or macros or whatever can help people get to a point where they can eat intuitively and not feel like they need to track for the rest of their life. But I think that it is wrong to demonize people for trying to track and get that basic knowledge that we don't have, especially a lot of people that are coming from similar situations to me, low income, not having any knowledge about nutrition, eating pretty much garbage food growing up, like really not knowing a single thing. The fact that tracking can give you that power back and it can give you a chance to learn about nutrition in real time for yourself, right? Like I'm learning about the things I'm eating. I think that that's very, very powerful and it is so, so useful. So when people, nutritionists, dietitians, or even fitness influencers, whenever they demonize the whole aspect of tracking in any capacity at any level, I think that that's wrong. Again, can it get bad? Yes. Can it become an ED? Yes. But that doesn't mean that it's always going to happen. And there are people like me that got very, very large that can use tracking to understand the basics about nutrition and that can really, really change their life. And I think it's so wrong to make them feel like there's something wrong with them because in this season of their life, tracking is really helping them. All right. I wasn't planning on getting so heated on that, but like I'm very passionate about this subject and I really wanted to explain why, because I think that it's important, right? Like I understand that a lot of these dietitians and nutritionists have their own background and they definitely do, right? They have had life experiences that have led them to where they are now, and that is why they believe what they believe and why they put on their Instagrams what they put on there. I understand that. But I wanted to give a different perspective because I know a lot of you guys watching this share similar beliefs to me and maybe had very similar walks through life that have led you to where you are now. And I just want people to understand that it's okay to feel like how I'm feeling, just like it's okay for those people to feel how they feel. But what I really don't like is these blanket statements that are being made, making anyone that's tracking or doing any sort of, diet or any sort of nutritional change like they have some sort of ED and they're a bad person because of it. Now, before I end today's video, I want to let you guys know if you enjoy these videos, I would love for you guys to check out my podcast. It's called Work for Change. I do it with my brother. I would really, really appreciate if you guys could click the link down in the description, maybe check out a couple episodes. We have some on YouTube. We have them on pretty much any podcast platform you can think of. That would be really, really awesome. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. There was one other thing that I wanted to say. Oh, yeah. Look how buff I am. Ugh.
Obey the warning signs, and when there are flashing lights or wigwags, don't attempt to cross until they come to a complete stop.